Okay, to start off with, I think we're looking a little bit more detail at the actual towers themselves, which were quite interesting because they needed to be hollow, because I wanted the tower to be in 3 sections, as you can see, and I wanted the miniatures to be able to be placed within the tower itself throughout the gameplay. So it was an interesting sort of problem, because obviously the tower needed to be a hollow structure that needed to be quite strong, so it would be robust enough to stand up to gameplay. So it's not as simple as it sounds to create a hollow shape that's going to be strong. So the way I decided to do that was to create a silicon mould of the front of the tower. So I first sculpted the master out of clay, and then moulded that with the silicon to give me the silicon mould, which I then cast the front sections out. And then once you've got 2 front sections, you can then bond them together to form the tower. Now this method's it's quite a messy method, because obviously you've got joins that you need to take care of, but because the towers had the main wall construction running down the sides, I didn't think that would be a problem later on. It was mainly the fronts and the window locations that I wanted to get right, and then the rest would sort of fall into place at a later date. Okay, so I've got my my mould ready. Now normally I'd use a different type of strengthener in the resin to do most of my stuff, but because these need to be super strong, because they're going to be hollow and we don't want them crushed, I'm using a tri-core fiberglass mat, which is you know, pretty strong. This will give the resin its strength, because the resin in its own has no strength. It will be quite brittle. So I've mixed up my resin with some Thixotropic in it, and I'm just going to quite liberally coat the inside of the mould to go for. So I'm just now going to laminate the tri-core fiberglass mat into that whilst it's still wet. Okay, so I've applied the resin to the mould. Now it's just a case of demoulding the tower side, and then just trimming back the excess. Okay, before bonding the 2 parts together, I want to be able to laminate the inside of the tower rather than the outside, because that will build up excess layers that we then need to get rid of. So the first thing to do is to cut the tower into 2 pieces before chopping the top off. Okay, so I've cut the 2 sections apart, so you can see that they're in a half now. So now when I put them together, it means I'll get access to the inside, so I can use an elastic band to hold these in position, whilst I then laminate the actually internal seams, which will be a much neater finish than trying to do it from the outside. So it will end up looking something like this. I've put in a first floor as well, so the miniatures can sit or stand in the first floor, and you can see they will be able to look through the windows. Okay, so I've added these floors to the towers as well. So I'm mixing up, or I've mixed up some resin with some fiberglass matting in it, and I'm just going to add that to the floor area. Okay, so I've added the towers to the main wall structure, so you can see that now the parts come apart, and I've included a small sort of hatch to get down to the lower level, and also a hatch on the first floor, so they can get down to the next level. I've also added doors on both sides of the towers so they can get so troops can get access to the main walkway or the battlements. So that way they can move to take up position on the battlements. Quite a complicated piece. The parts then can come apart to make it easier for transportation. So this all comes apart and so it all breaks down. Okay, I've given the wall a undercoat and I've dry brushed it slightly, and I've just given it a bit of a splat with some of the sort of sprayers that I've used in the rock work. Okay, so I'm just going to go in and airbrush some of these shadows in to give it more of a three-dimensional feel. Okay, so I'm really happy with the overall colour now, and it's got some depth because of the washes and the airbrushing. But because it's Dune, I want to give it that sort of dry, sort of dusty feel. So I'm just going to very lightly go over the top now with a sort of sandy colour and just pick out some of these highlights. Okay, for the door detail, I wanted these to be sort of like a metal door, but being on Dune, there's actually no moisture. That's the whole point about Dune. So I can't rust these up because there would be no rust. So, but what I want to do is make these look quite oily, as if they've been covered in oil to protect them from the sun. So I'm using this Model Mates product, which is a sort of translucent wash that you can put over silver, and this will make them appear to be sort of oily, a wonderful sort of oily sort of metal colour, like so. And then afterwards you can always either dry brush back in the actual silver if you wanted some of those highlights to come through, or you can rub it down with a cloth just to bring those back out again. Okay, that's the main wall now completed. So I thought I'd give you a quick preview of what it looks like with the mountain in the background. So these two pieces will eventually sort of fit together. I've still got the adjoining steps to make down to the lower courtyard and to the gate. Give you a look at the back. I've made the gate open so it has these two poles that slide out, and then the main gate can be drawn back. I think you'll agree that it's going to look really impressive when it's all completed. So it's quite a structure. It's really difficult to give you a sense of scale from the movie, but it is massive. So this is the 4x4 section, or it's 4x3 at the moment. And so the next piece to make will be the dry riverbed that runs along the front, with the bridge that connects the sort of main structure with the rest of the sand, open sand in front of the fortress.